Hello and welcome to episode 16 of the LiveFitNow podcast. Thank you for joining us today. Once again, I am super excited. We have a really good conversation coming up today when I speak to a happiness coach. We cover all sorts of topics within this subject area, and I hope we can all leave the episode with a little bit more happiness in our lives. So without further ado, let's head to the conversation. My guest today is a happiness teacher, meditation teacher, and Primal health coach. She founded Be Happy First in 2014 and has a mission to help 1 million women learn to claim their personal power, to learn to be happy and free on purpose. She's the host of the How to Choose Happiness and Freedom show and is our guest today. Welcome to the Live Fit Now podcast, Lauren Foster. How are you today?
Hi, I'm so good. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so happy to have met you.
Oh, likewise. I can't wait for this conversation. I just know it's going to flow so easily.
Yes, it's going to be awesome.
So I would love to start with you sharing your story. How have you got to this point in your life? What's your background? What's your experience?
It's so interesting that, this is what we're doing here when we're doing these podcasts. We're giving people the chance to share their story, right? And magnify their voices. I think that's so very cool. But just yesterday, I made a deal to publish a book with
Oh, wow. Congratulations.
other women. Yeah, it's a transformation book where each chapter is telling your story. And I'm 54 years old. My story is big and long and vibrant. So narrowing that down is the interesting thing. So, but I can do it. So I was born in 1965. No, I'm not going to tell you the whole But there's one relevant thing that occurred to me this morning from my childhood. I was the baby of 6. And so my mother was incredibly busy with my 5 other siblings. And therefore I was largely unsupervised growing up. And so that's one thing, is that I was kind of free to choose my own path and not be following someone else's. I was figuring things out for myself when I was just a little kid. And then the second thing that my mother did, that I've criticized her for this, and now I'm doing a 180 and going, oh my God, what a great gift, is that my mother truly knew what unconditional love was, meaning that we could do no wrong. Whatever trouble we got into, it wasn't about us. So she never made it in any way that she made us wrong, ever. And so I'm like, well, she raised us to not be accountable. She raised us to not be responsible. She raised us to be all these. But what she really did was raise us to be ourselves and to not be seeking approval from other people outside of us, which gives us a giant head start in life. So
yeah, it's powerful.
Yeah. And I'm not a parent, but I have a whole slew of nieces and nephews because of all my siblings. And, I'm their favorite aunt because I always let them be themselves. I never judge them. I never, try to get them to learn at some pace other than what they want to learn, or to focus on things they're not focused on. So anyway, after this idyllic childhood, I grew up a pretty happy kid. But I did what everybody else does, and I looked for happiness outside of myself. So I spent my whole life, from relationship to relationship, from job to job, from home to home. I added it up, and I moved 21 times after I became an adult. And at last count, I've had 39 jobs in my life. Well, yeah. So always just looking for that next thing, and succeeding and failing and succeeding and failing. And, and each time my failures were just more spectacular than the last. When finally back in 2010, I was bankrupt. I was homeless. I was, living on my sister's couch. I had completely depleted all of my resources trying to be the hero for other people. And I had nothing left to give. And I was just in this place of, I didn't even really want to try. And had my sister not been facing foreclosure herself, I might have lived out the rest of my life on her couch, taking odd jobs here and there, little TV show, radio show things, just enough to keep myself in wine and cigarettes. I could have done that the rest of my life. But she was about to lose her home, and I was unwilling to be literally homeless on the street. so I handed my family over to God, to the universe. They have just as much access to God as me. And, they have their own path. And I gathered up all of the life skills tools that I had, all of the positive thinking training that I had, all of the law of attraction, all of the things that I knew were essential to building your own life. I gathered those together. I put my blinders on and I built the life that I have now. So this was 2011, by 2013, I was in this little mountain paradise. I was running the first of the businesses that I conceived of, and then conceived of this business, the Be Happy First business, later in 2013. And all of the things that I envisioned for myself fell into place. I have the freedom, I have the success, I have the mission, I have the sense of purpose, I have the waking up every day knowing that I'm the master of my destiny and that my life is going to work out exactly the way I want it to. And my fondest wish is to teach other people what I know and to let other people figure out how to have what I have. And so that's where we are.
Wow. Incredible. It sounds like you've had quite a journey. I can see why they want you to write a book.
Yeah.
How did you come to the conclusion of starting Be Happy First? What was the purpose of Be Happy First for you?
Well, I can pinpoint the very moment that I conceived of this. I was sitting on the decks that I built in my beautiful little cabin with my golden retriever at my feet, my laptop in front of me. I was half working, I was half enjoying the sunshine. I was just absolutely bubbling over with happiness and that delicious feeling of figuring out what you want to create and creating it, and proving to yourself that you have that power. I'm like, okay, so now what? You remember my life of my successes and failures and successes and failures. This is the point in the past where I would have gone, well, I did this. Now I'm about to get bored. Now I'm about to get anything else. But instead, I said, okay, now here's my new jumping off point. Now what do I want? And that's what I concluded. I want to teach other people to not take decades to get here, to be able to get here, way quicker without all of the failures that I had, and just help people be able to speed up that journey, especially women who are so busy trying to take care of the rest of the world that they forget to pay attention to themselves. And so I'm like, that's what I want to do. I want to be a happiness coach. I honest to God thought I made up the word. I since learned that I didn't invent that word. Other people had that. And then I thought, okay, what do I want my business to be? Still sitting there in my chair. So the whole message is that instead of waiting to lose weight, waiting to have more money, waiting to have a different job, putting all of our happiness out in those other baskets of things that we want, instead being grateful and appreciative and happy right where we are, in eager anticipation of adding all of those awesome things to our lives. It's like, okay, so that means Be Happy First. I think I had another name in mind first, but I couldn't get the website. So that name is faded from my memory. I don't know what it was supposed to be, but that's why I was just spilling over with the need to see other people being as happy as I was.
Yeah. Stop waiting.
Yeah, don't wait. What, all your power is in this moment, and everything that's coming next in your life, you're creating by your vibration in this moment. And if this is a happy vibration right here, then the happy stuff has to come. That's the way the law of the universe works, just like the law of gravity. Happy things are attracted to happiness. You attract what you are. So be happy.
Absolutely. I love it.
Yeah.
So what do you do? How do you coach people? Is it one-to-one? Is it group training? A mixture of all?
Well, this has evolved as Be Happy First grew. So after that moment of going, okay, I know how to, I want to teach people how to do this. It wasn't long before I realized that knowing how to do something and knowing how to teach someone else to do something are not the same thing at all.
Absolutely. So true.
It really is. I didn't know how to construct a course. I didn't know anything about being a happiness coach. And so as the universe does, I'm thinking about things. I'm doing the John Assaraf's neuro gym, what does he call his program? Winning the Game of Money. I'm, using all of the life skills that I know and waiting for inspired action from the universe, inspired ideas. And Mary Morrissey's Life Mastery Institute comes across my Facebook feed, and that's what she does. She teaches you how to be a life coach. She teaches you how to construct your business. She teaches you all of this stuff. I'm like, voila, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. So I went off and invested thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars in education and certification. And I started off doing one-on-one coaching. And then from that evolved a group coaching program that was called Be Happy First University. We did that for a couple of years. And then before COVID-19, long before, I just figured out that the one-on-one wasn't exactly scalable, and I didn't want to go out in the world and do things. I lived on the side of my mountain for a reason, and so that's when I started developing online courses, and those are still in the works. I'm still shaping those and figuring out what those are going to look like. And in the meantime, my podcast is the How to Choose Happiness and Freedom show. And so I want to use that platform to magnify the voices of other women like you who are going to be on my show. And, there's a lot of us that are out there wanting to transform lives. And I love helping each other, being on other people's podcasts, having, providing a vehicle for other voices on my podcast. So that's how it works at the moment.
It sounds great. And it's so true. We need to all empower each other and realize that we can be so empowered ourselves, and then we can make these choices for ourselves and realize that we can do so much more to take us down a different path than perhaps we think is going to be inevitable. But nothing is necessarily inevitable.
You're exactly right. And, I heard it said once that if you can see your path, you're not on your own path, because your path hasn't been written yet. You're still creating your path. So if you can see miles and miles ahead, that's somebody else's path. Take the steps that feel amazing to you that you can see now, with faith that the next steps are going to reveal themselves to you, just like driving down a dark highway. You see as much as you see until you move forward, and then you see more.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm kind of interested to know, obviously you're coaching people, but obviously you've got your meditation and your Primal health coach qualifications as well. Does that suggest that you look at many different aspects of people's lifestyles and lives?
Yes and no, in that the principles that I teach apply to everything. So if you just pick one area of your life that you want to work on, say it's your health or your money or your career or your relationships or anything, and you use that as your project, if you will, for learning these principles, then all of that goodness can't help but spill out into the rest of your life. So that you're in the fitness world, if you are teaching yourself to love and respect and be best friends with your body, and you're teaching yourself great self-care and great stories to tell yourself in your mind, and changing the way that you think about your health, it changes the way you think about money. It changes the way you think about relationships. So I in the marketing world, everybody's always, you have to have a narrow message. You have to choose one specific problem that you solve for people. And I've just resisted that because I don't want to. I don't want to just talk about fitness. I don't want to just talk about relationships. I don't want to just talk about money and career. I want to talk about being in love with your life right this minute, and then watching all of those things unfold.
Exactly.
So, although I am very passionate about the relationship that food and movement and lifestyle and sleep and stress management, I think that all of those physical actions are so very important.
Yeah.
But if you don't get your mindset right first.
Exactly. It all slots together, doesn't it? It really is. It's all the different puzzle pieces, and actually you've got to look at all of it. And I so often will have conversations with people, and they might be really good at applying themselves in a particular area of their life, say career, often successful career people, but then they are not necessarily so good at looking after themselves health-wise. And when you talk to them and you break down the problems, it's just about explaining, but actually the way you approach your work life is no different generally. The basic skills of life and how we apply ourselves to things is exactly the same. You know, you need to be consistent. You need to focus on what you want to be achieving and keeping a positive mindset and build it slowly, one block at a time. You wouldn't expect to just immediately get to the top in a career. And it's the same with any other fitness or health or well-being goal. And I think once you can slot that together and realize that it's all very basic and simple, it's just, it takes time, and you can just apply it to anything you want to. And you haven't got to do it all at once. You can just focus on one thing at a time.
Yeah, it really did. And especially in your industry where you're, how many women come to you because they want to lose weight and they want to lose it right this minute, and they completely discount all the years that it took to gain that weight and all the patterns that their body is into, and you know how their metabolism is working. Yeah, and their mindset. Yeah. And so that to me in the health coaching industry is the biggest challenge, is to get people to accept themselves like they are, because again, you attract what you are. And if you are miserable and hating on your body, how's your body going to respond to that? You know, and dragging yourself through workouts that you hate instead of figuring out a way to be in love with your workouts and finding
Gotta
ways
find joy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so true. And so often people will, they say, and I have to shut it down straight away. Like, you can't talk to yourself like that. You have to stop. You have to cut it down, even if that's how you felt for such a long time. And it's going to take time potentially to get out of that mindset. But it's so important to stop. You have to stop saying those words, because they're powerful. Words are powerful. And if you keep using those bad, negative words to yourself, and words you would never use about other people as well, that's the most incredible thing, because they never would speak to their, you know, the classic, isn't it? You wouldn't speak to your best friend like it, but it's so true. And you certainly shouldn't speak to yourself like it. But that takes, you know, time to stop that, I think.
It really does. And that's probably one of the most, because I mean, however old you are, you started forming those patterns of belief when you were very, very young, and they're deeply embedded in your brain. So changing the way that you think about things takes daily effort. So we have a 5 secret steps to happiness journaling guide thing that I would love to give away free to your listeners, if that's something that would be,
That'd be
if
wonderful. Yeah, I'll pop it into
appropriate. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I'll give you the link in the show notes, but it's just behappyfirst.org/journal playbook. And the second exercise is just what you were talking about, is affirmations, and affirmations that you write yourself. So have you ever picked up an affirmation card that somebody else wrote and you're like, oh, money comes easily and frequently to me? Yeah, right. This is not something that you definitely can believe in that moment. But if you write your own affirmations, I am more and more in love with my body every day. I am getting healthier and wealthier and a better version of myself every day. I am learning to fall in love with who I am. You know, the affirmations that you write, this is a great way. If you do this every morning, it doesn't take long, but it begins to teach your subconscious that you're telling a new story, that this is who you're becoming.
Yeah, it takes effort to start with, doesn't it? I mean, we live in a society that does not want us really to be happy and content, because it thrives, you know, capitalism thrives off people being insecure and unhappy and wanting to buy things. And it comes in at every level of our lives, I think. And that's why people struggle so much with food and contentment and speaking to themselves in a more positive way. And I think as much as we are at a time that I think it's growing, it's always going to be a struggle, because the truth is the machine isn't helping us.
No, it really isn't. And we have become, I'm always a little terrified when conversations go in this direction, but because I'm just really kind of appalled at how much we allow information into our minds that doesn't serve us. That, you know, we stay glued to news that is not representative of what's happening in this world. This is, for every murder that you see on TV, there are thousands and thousands and thousands of people that are being kind to one another, that are being in love with one another, that are helping, they're using their resources, their time and their money and their energy to help. But that's not what we're forming a picture of the world, that it's this horrible place where we all hate each other and we must look like this and we must wear this and we must drive this kind of car if we're going to be acceptable. And yeah, it's time for us to step back and think for ourselves and be in love with who we are and know that that's okay, that we're enough, that we are, completely worthy like we are. We don't need all that stuff.
No, I couldn't agree with that.
Stuff is good. I love stuff. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But your identity and your happiness cannot rely on anything outside of you.
I think it's about, I haven't watched news for years because I completely agree with you. It's not a healthy, particularly not towards just before bed. It's like the worst possible time you could be watching such a thing. But also when you say to stuff, it's true. We all like stuff. I like stuff too. But it's, what stuff are you obsessing about? Is it stuff that you really want and you actually get some great joy and happiness from? Or is it just the stuff that everyone else is buying and everyone else has got? Because that may not give you that satisfaction that you're expecting. It's really finding your own hobbies. And it sounds like you had a wonderful start, because to have a childhood that just allowed you to. And actually, I feel like I had the same. I was never really into the normal girly hobbies. I got into some, what would be classed more as boy hobbies really, but I just went with it. I was never discouraged, and that meant I did stuff that I loved. And people probably thought, wow, a little bit odd, but who cares? It makes you into the person that you are as an adult. And I am incredibly pleased that I had that freedom rather than having to do the stereotypical growing up bit.
Yeah, you got to do what you wanted, and you got to learn to not care what anybody else thinks. Because there's not another single person on this earth whose opinion matters more than your opinion of yourself. Yeah. And that's something that's very hard for people to get their minds around. Like, oh, I have to look like this. I have to behave like this. I have to please this group or my mother. Our mothers often teach us to look to her for approval instead of at our own inner being. And we learned that when I behave the way you want me to behave, then things go well. When I behave the way I want to behave, things go badly because you don't approve. And then we wind up looking for love in the eyes of other people instead of, back into our own soul and our own spirit. So yeah, we were lucky.
Yeah, absolutely. I so agree with you. Where do I want to go with this now? I've got so many different potentials.
Okay.
I guess I quite like this one, and I ask it of everyone because I find it interesting to see how people see their own industries. Are there any common myths in your industry that you would like to debunk, that you think people might have an idea of what it is that you do and we've got it all
wrong? Let's see. First of all, to answer that question, I would have to define what my industry is, which I really don't know. Debunking. Well, there's a common thing about the law of attraction that is sometimes a misconception, and that people think that, oh, if I just visualize, if I just really focus on what I want, it will come to me. And that's sort of true. But at the same time, we're in this physical world, and this physical world requires action. And so the fine line there is finding action that is inspired, that feels good, that you could do all day long. And from this place of knowing what you want and being in the feeling place of having what you want. So that kind of action feels so much better than being over here in your human willpower, determination, discipline, I am going to make this happen kind of attitude. And that that's not the way it works, because you see people working their butts off their whole lives and never getting anywhere. And then you see other people doing minimal work and being billionaires. So we know that it's not hard work equals success.
No,
we know. And this in the fitness industry too, that, you see people that they pound their head against the wall and pound, and they're not healthy, and they're not reaching their weight loss goals, and they're not, feeling good in their bodies. Whereas those who are going with the flow and accepting the law of gestation, which means that things take time, different things take different amounts of time, and going with the flow and enjoying the foods that they're eating and enjoying their journey and enjoying their working out, that they have lasting and awesome and fun results. So that's a bunk, and that the law of attraction is going to make things happen. Is going to drop piles of money in your lap, and all you have to do is wish for it. That's kind of a common misconception. So that's one. I would kind of like to talk a little bit about the masculine way of creating and the feminine way of creating. Have you heard about this concept?
I'm not sure, but go ahead.
There's Dr. Claire Zammit has a movement called Evolving Wisdom, and she teaches this whole feminine empowerment course. Now, I want to be very, very clear. This is not male bashing. This is not anything against men or anything. It's just sort of like yin and yang, that there's these two different ways of creating. And the masculine way of creating is very logical, very analytical, very step-by-step and pragmatic and practical. And it's why we have such an amazingly technologically advanced society. We could not have gotten to where we are without that way of creating. But the feminine way of creating is more like how you cultivate a garden. It's more like magic. It's more like, creating and nurturing. And we have kind of a phenomenon in this world where women are more successful than ever. We're breaking the glass ceiling and being, CEOs, and we're, the breadwinners in more than 50% of households, and more college graduates, and all of these outside ways women are really successful. But at the same time, we're still depressed. 20% are on antidepressants. 50% or more claim to have a bad relationship with their bodies and with food. And so figuring out how we as women can embrace our feminine power in addition to all of the masculine ways of creating is helping us to be fulfilled. So it's not that we can't go and find work. It's that we want to find work that fulfills us, that making money is not enough, that we want to have an impact. We want to have satisfaction. We want to bring our heart into everything that we do and into the impact that we're making in the world. So that's a message that I really want to get behind and help more women to be able to create and live their lives in ways that, yes, they're successful, but more than that, they're happy and they're free and they're being themselves and bringing their best heart-centered gifts to the world.
Yeah, no, I can understand that. And it's true. And I think we are in a new phase. I think quite often in the past, a lot of successful women have been very deliberately masculine in order to get there. Whereas now I think I keep getting the New Zealand Prime Minister pop into my head, actually. A much more empathetic lady. And she's often criticized, I think, for being not hard enough, but actually, well, she's doing all right, isn't she? So I guess it shows that it can work. And I guess we're just at that time and perhaps that turning point where people are realizing that they can. And it's good. It's good that, like you say, it's yin and yang. It's good that we have the different approaches of male and female, because that's what is going to create the most results.
So before, women did not have the option to create in a feminine way. In order to succeed, we did have to create in a masculine way. And we did have to emulate the masculine leaders of the world, because that's all, we didn't have the power. But now things are evolving in that we do have the power, and we don't have to fight for the actual, right to move around in the world. And so it's like we're allowed. It's like now we've got a foothold. Now we can bring a heart-centered approach into this. So I think it's fascinating.
Yeah, we are. We're definitely living at an interesting time. Although I guess we probably would think that whatever time we were living. But I do feel like I just feel like there's real change at the moment, I think.
I agree that this is a great time to be a woman.
Yeah. So I would like to ask you, when you're coaching people, where do you start? Do you try and figure out what happiness is to them, or is it really split down into the individual's person's issues?
For one-on-one coaching, we'll usually have a curriculum, because if you have something to pay attention to, that kind of helps you get information. So like one of my favorite topics is the power of words. And if you pay attention to the words that you're saying, you get a very good inclination of how you're creating. And we'll sometimes look at a specific problem, but a lot of times it's very difficult to pay attention to the problem without adding energy to the problem. So sometimes we'll just, this is, I'm not having a good relationship with my husband, and that's what I would like to see improved in my life. But then we set that aside, and then we turn around and start looking at the person that you are being and creating a vision for your life the way you would love it to be, not the way you want it. I mean, not the way that you think you can have it, not according to what you think you already know, but what you would really love. And the sky is the limit. And then we start figuring out what that feels like and what kind of person is living that life. And we teach you to become that person. And then watch for the inspired action steps that come along. So if I, what I would really love more than anything in the world is to have an avocado farm in Costa Rica. Do I know anything about avocado farming? No. Do I know anything about the economy in Costa Rica or the laws or anything? No. But those are all things that I can learn. And if that's really what I want to be, as an avocado farmer in Costa Rica, there's no reason in this world that I can't do that. And the first thing you do is you figure out what does that person do? How does that person wake up? She doesn't wake up mad at traffic. She doesn't wake up, whatever it is that's going on, you become the person that's living the life that you want to live.
Yeah, it reminds me actually, when I was at sixth form, I was told by who was the head of sixth form at the time, and he said, don't let yourself be held back by self-imposed limitations.
Exactly.
And I think it's just so true. And it comes up again and again because I think most people really hold themselves back by the limitations they put upon themselves. And they will always look for the excuses and the reasons why other people have something and that they don't. But everyone has, certainly in the countries that we live in, the opportunity to take a different path and do something different. But for whatever reason, they stop themselves being able to do it. So I'm guessing a lot of the people you work with have reached the point where they've just had enough and actually they have to do something different because they're so unhappy.
Yeah, there's like a light bulb that goes off and they're like, there has to be more than this. There has to be that. This can't be it. That life has to be better than this. And I'm going to accept that somebody else can help me figure it out. And the powerful thing about coaching, teaching, mentoring, the real thing that we bring to each of our clients, our students, anyone who's listening to us, is that we're able to see your life from the outside perspective. You can't see your life from inside the frame. You can't hear the words that you're saying. You can't, there's so much that we can observe and hold a mirror up for you. And also in supporting you into who you can become instead of holding you back into who you have been. And you're right. We all define ourselves by our past, and we don't know how to get out of our own way and let the unlimited resources of the universe come to our aid and fill up our lives with all the things that we want.
Yeah, we can ask the questions that need asking, I think, quite often, because also we've obviously got experience with so many different kinds of people, and there are so many common themes essentially as to things that people are dealing with. And the truth is every single person's individual experiences are going to be different. But having said that, the way in which we can deal with them, I think, are often similar. So I'm guessing journaling is one of the tools that you use with people. And meditation, is that another one?
Yes, absolutely. So, and those are neck and neck as to, I have to say meditation is the most universal, most effective way of getting yourself back in the driver's seat of your life. Because when you take the time to bring your mind back to total stillness and to just really connect with, we talk about words, and some people say God, some people say the universe, some people say the great spirit. It does not matter what you call it. Whatever it is, the force that beats your heart, if you spend a moment getting connected in that place of absolute stillness, then you have a solid foundation on which to build the rest of your day. And you're building it on purpose instead of just waking up and instantly reacting to everything that's going on outside of you. So in meditation, you teach your mind that you're the boss, that you get to pause and decide how you're going to respond to everything. And when you really master this, it's like nobody can piss you off, because you always have the ability to go, do I want to feel bad by being pissed off about that? Or do I want to stay true to myself and true to my promise to myself to stay happy and manage my perspective? And then you get to decide. Now, maybe you will decide, yeah, I want to be pissed off. But you've chosen.
Yeah.
You see, instead of just being a victim of everything that's going on around you and being a knee-jerk reactor, suddenly you're in the driver's seat of your life and you are choosing how you respond. And that's so powerful feeling. You're like, oh, and once you really begin to believe that, and a regular meditation practice will teach you, you'll notice that, I'm not reacting. I'm not at the mercy of everything that's going on around me. And then you just want to do it more and more.
Yeah.
And you want to be more and more of a deliberate creator.
Absolutely. I think it's true, or interesting rather, that emotions, I think, are a really interesting part of our society, because I think we have a lot of good and bad associated with particular emotions, rather than just accepting that we all have different emotions that would be classed as good or bad, but that's just not true. They are reactions that our minds and bodies have had to a situation, none of which are bad, however extreme they might be. But I think because of those connotations, it allows people to really latch on to a particular emotion. And actually, I think it's the latching on and not just letting an emotion come and go that causes so many issues for us, because we can stay angry at someone, for example, and rather than actually just letting that anger go or telling them what the problem is, or whichever way you might be dealing with it, you just keep hold of it and it bubbles. And I think that so often causes problems in relationships, because you've still got the anger, they don't necessarily know that you're angry, and it grows and your patience gets shorter, and you can't deal with situations that other people might say, well, that was an irrational reaction, but it's not, because you've built this big bubble of emotions up underneath the surface, and then it all just comes out. And I think perhaps if we were more accepting of sadness and anger and fear, all those emotions are good. We don't want to have them all the time, but they are good emotions as long as we can let them go. And I think it's so much easier to be happy, to be content, because you have not filled up your energy space with those negative emotions.
Mm-hmm. So, and what I believe is that our emotions are our built-in GPS, our built-in guidance system, so that when and good or bad is very individual, and also compared to where you were. So if you're incredibly depressed and in despair and just feeling completely and totally hopeless, anger is an improvement on that. That feels
Yeah.
better, And so, but we don't like to see depressed people get angry, because then their emotion is affecting us instead of just beating their own selves up. So, but if you're able to go from being depressed to being angry, and then going to something that feels a little bit better than that, and a little bit better than that, a little bit better than that, then eventually you're back in the high flying emotional places. But, it's what feels good to you based on where you've been. And what I believe is that when you don't feel good, then you are focusing on that bad feeling thought. And just exactly like you said, you attract more bad feeling thoughts like that. And that just continues to grow and grow and grow in you. Whereas if you can figure out a way to turn it in the other direction and feel a little better, a little better, a little better, then your feelings of forgiveness, your feelings of love and appreciation, they do the same thing, attracting more and more things like that. So you're exactly right. It's making a choice as to, okay, I'm mad. This is giving me guidance. This is giving me information about something that is going on. And I'm going to take that information, use it to make things better. And then I'm going to feel better. and then I'm going to feel better and better and better. Yeah, you're absolutely right. There's no good or bad emotions. There's just information.
And also, I think it's a really important thing for us to remember, and it allows us to let go more. Because we feel a particular way, it doesn't mean the other person involved in the situation has any idea, because the way they've interpreted the same situation could be completely opposite.
Yeah.
And then even more confusion arises. And I
Yeah.
think, I think communication is so important. And I think that's often a breakdown between people. They don't actually say what they mean for whatever reason, whether it's just because they've learned that as a way of being as a person, or they don't want to hurt the other person's feelings. But actually, when you openly communicate, whether it's a hard thing to hear or not, at least then you're on the same page, and then people can make the choice as to whether they realize that they're behaving like that, or that's how it's being interpreted, and they may then adjust or not. And then that is potentially a long-term issue, but it's better to get to the root of it as early as possible, I think, rather than letting it build and fester, as I was saying earlier.
Yeah, that makes absolutely perfect sense to me. Yeah. And, a lot of times we expect other people to read our minds, especially in, male, female, intimate relationships. We're like, well, I just want you to know what I love. And it's I will be happy if you will anticipate my needs and do exactly what. So you put your happiness in somebody else's pocket, and that's a very giant responsibility for them. Whereas if you're able to say, I love it when you do this, and you are able to heap praise on them when they do the things that make you happy, which just builds up this awesome, awesome thing, and be able to say, I didn't love so much. And
exactly.
just to be transparent. Yeah.
There's a lot of societal changes, I think, aren't there? A lot of societal changes that are needed for us to break through, to actually realize our own happiness, I think, because there's so much linked to it.
Yeah, they're in every way. That there's so many roles that people play, that I'm trying to fit in here, I'm trying to belong here, I'm trying to meet this expectation. Whereas I think that we are becoming a society more and more that's going, oh, you're different, I like that. Show me what's different about you. You wear whatever you want to wear. You don't, we're not as chained to fashions and things like that as we have been in the past. And again, that's evolving. And especially in the world of beauty and fitness, that we're learning to appreciate real women, unairbrushed and unadorned, and just being able to be who we are without, having to try to be all matchy-matchy with each other.
Yeah, I think it's so important that we embrace change. And I think, again, naturally, perhaps as humans, we don't like change because we fear the unknown. But actually, I think so many people live their lives attached to an idea of themselves, but they're not that person anymore. And that's fine. You can genuinely let go of something. You were that person. That might have been absolutely who you were, but you've changed, you've done things, you've learned things, you've had all these different experiences, that then you become a different person. And I think it's very tiring as well if you then try and cling on to that whilst trying to still be the new person, rather than just realizing that was of that time. It's fine, just let go of it and move on to the next stage, so that you can fully embrace it and really get the most from it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're talking about forgiveness. Forgive the person that you used to be, and it's actually a pretty simple process. You can, okay, would I do that if I had known what I know now? And no, I wouldn't do it again. So I forgive myself and I embrace the new person that I am. Yeah, exactly. And a lot of times forgiving ourselves is the hardest thing that we can do. That even harder than forgiving others that we think have wronged us, or done us wrong.
Yeah, people are certainly hard on themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So if you had any general tips to help people just to improve their overall well-being, particularly if they are in quite a dark place, where would you advise them to start?
First thing in the morning, as soon as you wake up, before you open your eyes. And you could actually start last thing at night for do not go to bed with images of news on your mind. Try to write down the 5 steps, the 5 magic steps. Step 5 is to write down some of your wins for the day. So things that you got right. So if, I've had times in my life when brushing my teeth and taking a shower and going for a 5-minute walk were accomplishments. And I've had other times in my life when things are going great, that I closed this great sale. I finished this amazing project. I created this great relationship with someone at work, anything that you accomplished in that day. If you write down 3 things before you end your day, this helps to build your self-esteem. Most of us go to bed thinking about all the things that are still left on our list. We're just, we completely forget about all the things we did, and all we think about is all the things that are left to do. So we never get to win. We never get to be congratulated. So write down your wins, and then before you even open your eyes in the morning, think of 5 things that you appreciate. If you like the word grateful, use that. 5 things you're grateful for, and these can be the same 5 things every day. But get yourself, before you even open your eyes, in the mindset that you want to spend your day in, and hang on to it for as long as you can. And this is one of those practice things. The first time, you might not even make it to brush your teeth, whereas something knocks you out of your great mood. And then maybe the next time you make it till breakfast, or maybe you discover that if you just won't look at social media, you can hang on to your good feeling longer. If you put off checking your email, you can hang on to your good feeling longer. And then you'll see things starting to work out for you. And before you know it, how you feel will be the most important thing in the world for you. And you won't allow anything to mess with your high vibration. So first thing in the morning, so like I have little kitty cats that usually sleep with me. So before I even open my eyes, I can feel them against my leg. I'm like, oh, so sweet. And I love that I get to wake up whenever I want, that I don't have a life that requires an alarm clock. And I love that I got such a great night's sleep. And I love that my home is exactly the way that I want it. And, they don't have to be big things, but just things that make you feel good. And then fall in love with that feeling and keep it as long as you can. That's the one tip. Because in the morning, while you're sleeping, you stop thought. You stop your momentum. Now, if you're dreaming and things like that, that's a different subject. But all in all, you're not creating while you're sleeping. And if you can start fresh in the morning instead of just picking up the negative feelings that you had from the day before, but start fresh, then you've got a head start on the rest of your life.
Sounds great. So simple. One small thing, but like you say, it takes practice, doesn't it, to get into the habit of it.
Habit, yeah.
Yeah, it's all habit building.
It's very simple. You're just laying there going, okay, what do I love? What do I love? What do I love? What are 5 things I love? You might be lying next to somebody that's amazing that fills your heart. That's an easy one. Give them a pat. Say, oh, I love you. I'm grateful for you. Yeah.
It does. It starts the day off in the best possible way, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's a big question, the next one.
Okay.
What inspires you? And it can be personal, business, purely, completely up to you. But what gets you going? What inspires you to do what you do and get up every day?
I ask myself this a lot. And through all kinds of different programs. So I go find somebody that you admire, that you would like to emulate their life, or find who inspires you when we're doing marketing studies. And I find my inspiration in really small things, okay, so one morning I wrote in my journal that this is the day I'm going to start writing a book again. This is a very relevant story. I've started 20 times at least to write a book. All different kinds of books, nonfiction books, fiction books. I've started and stopped at least 20 times. And so I woke up one morning and like, you know what? This is really something that I'm good at, something that I enjoy. I should do this. And then the next time I was at my computer, I got an email from an organization that I'm in that was doing a compilation book. That, all you have to write is 1 chapter, and you get all this stuff. You get support from other writers, you get editing, you get all these cool mentor type things. Like, yes, this is awesome. But then when I read it more closely, I'm like, this language doesn't really resonate with me. This isn't really exactly what the answer is that I'm looking for. Well, 2 days later, I got a very similar mail, but it was exactly the language. It was talking about transformation. It was talking about empowering women. It was talking about, the law of attraction, all of the things that I love. And it was a perfect match. And I'm like, I just love it. Just all I have to do is think of something and the universe delivers it. And that just makes me want to think of more things for the universe to deliver. And to help other people when somebody else has experiences like this and shares them with me, that is what inspires me.
I like that a lot. And actually, I think it's even more powerful in a way for it to be in the small things, because they can come from anywhere.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And these kinds of things happen all the time. It's like, money arrives by accident and all the time. And I can always trace it back to how abundant and in what kind of a receiving mode I'm in. And the opposite is true as well. Something came up, a piece of property that I wanted to buy. And I'm like, okay, you know what? I've got to start saving my pennies. And I didn't realize it at the time, but I went into a kind of hoarding kind of mode in my mind regarding money. It's like, I got to protect my credit. I got to protect my savings. I got to do all this lackful thinking. You can hear it in my voice, right? It's like, got to keep it safe, keep it safe. Well, then COVID-19 came along. Then my dog cost me $3,000. Then all of this not good stuff came about from this sudden hoarding lack kind of mindset. And the instant I recognized it and went, oh my God, look what you did, and turned it back around and went, oh, I know that everything's working out for me. I know that abundance flows from everywhere, and got myself back in the right mindset. The money blocks went away and the money started to flow in again. And so how cool is that? Like, oh, look what I did. Bad or good, when you empower yourself to acknowledge and take responsibility for what you're creating, you're unstoppable. And that's an amazing feeling.
It's really good for those things to happen, I think, because the more knowledge you get from these experiences, you need it to happen every now and again to remind you that you need to stay on that pathway of the positivity, because actually that does bring you so much more. And it just brings you daily joy.
Yeah, exactly. Anytime anything goes, I don't know if you're using the video, but in air quotes, things go wrong or unwanted things happen. If you are always embracing that and going, oh, cool, here's something for me to learn. Here's guidance for me to change my direction. Here's ways that I can grow and learn and that my life can be enhanced. Then again, you're back to this place where nothing can rock your boat, because things going wrong are just information. When you fail, you're like, okay, well, now I know that way doesn't work. I have to try it this way instead. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's accepting the growth mindset, isn't it? You never stop growing,
Right.
whether it's apparently good or bad. Even when things fail, you still learn things from it, and then you'll take your next step. And if you didn't fail, you may never have taken that next successful step.
Yeah, and there's always gifts, and if you can stand far enough back, if we could stand far enough back, we could see how this COVID-19 crap was the very best thing in the whole entire world for individuals, for businesses, for the environment. There are millions and billions of gifts that are coming out of this situation that we can pay attention to and learn from. And one thing that I'm pretty passionate about, we talked about the Primal Health Coach, but there's you might know Dr. Michael Hyatt. He's a holistic doctor that's written all about the way that we are growing our food is destroying our planet and our bodies. So the wiping out fields and fields and fields to grow soy and wheat and all of these industrial crops that are killing us and destroying our environment. That's a really powerful movement that he has in place. And I think it's called foodfix.org. Where was I going with that? What does that have to do with anything? Foodfix.org. Things to be passionate about. Yeah. Oh, the COVID-19 thing. People being afraid for their health and realizing how vulnerable they are to a germ or something like this, maybe it will get people to be systemically healthier so that they don't need to be as afraid of a pandemic or things like that. So what a giant gift that would be. And I've already seen where people are buying local meat and local vegetables. So the
here
small
too.
farmers are getting a boost from this. So there's already great gifts that are coming from that. And from everything that looks like it's something bad is just another part of our evolution as a species, as a planet.
Yeah, again, it's enforced change, and it's very similar here as well. A lot more people buying local, and the thing is, I think when it comes to health and wellness and fitness and all of these things that encompass our overall well-being, is it does take effort in our society to focus on it and actually nourish ourselves in every possible way, because that's not the way it's constructed. It's quite the opposite. You have to really put effort in, and that is about priorities. And as you say, you've had people come to you with those light bulb moments. And I think the same happens quite often with health. And I find a lot of people, perhaps it doesn't come naturally until maybe 40s, 50s, when you start to feel your body changing a lot. And something I'm really passionate about is trying to get in there younger. I had my pivotal moment when I got sick when I was 18. And it made me realize that I had to take care of myself to give myself the best, chance possible to have a healthier life. So that was my moment out of a bad moment, actually completely changed my path. I'd have probably ended up in a law career rather than in the industry I am now, and the growth and path that I've taken.
Uh-huh.
So it was actually a good thing to happen to me, because it's allowed me to take and put a focus on something that actually realistically, I think there's little that should ever come above health, because it's going to at least come level with family, because if you're not healthy, that's going to impact your family anyway. And obviously the way you behave with your health and well-being is going to impact your family as well, because they'll probably be doing similar things generally. So I think it's about priorities and figuring out how to make it a priority, because it's on a lot of people's overall plans. You look at the beginning of a year, they'll set their goals for the year, and it'll be like, oh yes, I need to get fitter, I need to lose weight, whatever, for them, they think they need to do. But the people that stick with it are the people, I think, that manage to get it up on their priorities list, and everything else slots into place. But if it's just an idea, a concept that you like, but you never quite make it the priority, you never actually get anywhere with it. And I guess if you're looking at the law of attraction, it is putting it at the focus of what you want.
Yeah, it is being very clear about what you want and why you want it. So, and there are whys that are, deep down in your soul that are really important to you. And then there are whys that are surface. Looking good in a bikini is not going to get you through January, but feeling amazing and being able to play with your grandchildren and loving the way that you are in your body and relishing the idea of a long, happy life, that's a lasting why. That's a why that will keep you coming back and learning how to read labels or getting rid of labels and cooking for yourself and makes it more important. So the why of things is really, really big in everything, in keeping a business alive. Your why is what will keep you coming back, even when your feelings get hurt, even when you feel like you're failing, even when you feel like you're having a hard time figuring things out. If it's something that you want from your soul, from your heart, for really great reasons, then it's something to stick with. And that's another reason that I really encourage people to love their bodies, because then, what you were talking about, the things that you say to your best friend, but you shove Twinkies into the mouth of your best friend or your child, So yeah, a deep love and respect and honoring. Our bodies are so amazing. So many trillions of things that they're doing without us having to lift a finger or give it a thought, and doing the very best that it can with the input that we give it. So yeah, you're right. It needs to be a priority, and how you get it there is probably going to vary from individual to individual because, I don't have any grandkids. So you got to find another why for me.
Exactly. Yeah, it's about finding a different why. And it's interesting that you say those things, because it's true. When I work with people, looking different is often a big part of why, losing weight or whatever else their particular goal might be. But the things that I love most to hear is when people say, oh, I feel so much more confident now. I feel so much stronger now, because that's immediate. Like when you feel stronger and you feel like you're standing up tall and you just feel better in yourself, that is the thing that will keep you doing it.
Right.
Because it takes time. It's a lifestyle that gets you looking that dream goal that you might have. And that's fine. That's your goal. You will keep working towards it, but you have to think about all those other underlying things that actually give you joy as you work out, or you choose different food to put in your mouth because you feel better for it. And confidence and strength is such a powerful thing, and it definitely keeps people focused on that goal. And so I would like to finish off by giving you the floor to share one thing that you think everyone would benefit from knowing.
One thing that everyone would benefit from knowing. Happiness is a choice. You can always choose to be happy first. That's the overlying, that's everything. You get to choose what you're going to look at no matter what. So choose to look at things that please you, or choose to look at things that you hate and to complain about, but own your choice. And if how you feel and being happy is important to you, then look at things that make you happy. It's so simple. And when you train your brain to be this way, one of my teachers, my business teachers, she's a branding coach, and she did a great little video recently about it's a long word, but basically it's that your brain filters out about 95% of what's going on around you because it just can't take in all of it. So your brain is very selectively taking in information. You notice this when you decide to buy a certain car and suddenly you see that car everywhere.
So true.
Yeah, so this is what's happening. And so if you teach your brain that you want to look for things that are pretty, things that are happy, things that feel good, then that's what your brain looks for. But if you teach your brain that you want to look for people who are complaining, you want to look for people who are fighting, you want to look for people who are mean, you want to look for people who are cutting you off in traffic, then that's what your brain is going to show you. So you get to choose. That's it. That's the simplest, most universal message. Choose what you pay attention to.
It's a wonderful message to leave people with. So how, if my audience want to come and find you, whereabouts are you on the internet?
BeHappyFirst.org, and that's all spelled out, is a great starting place. So from there you can find links to the How to Choose Happiness and Freedom show. There's videos, there's the podcast, there's links to the free meditations there. There's links to the five magic secrets to happiness, the journaling playbook. Everything that you want, you can get to from the BeHappyFirst.org place.
Wonderful. I will pop a link. Facebook as well. Brilliant. I will pop links to all of those things on the show notes so people can just click straight through.
Okay. I just have to say thanks to the Buzzsprout community where we met. Podcasters amplifying each other's voices. I'm so happy that I know you, and I'm going to come and visit you in England.
It's great. I have had some fantastic conversations, and people that you would never otherwise come into contact with. It's such a great platform to be able to connect, and as you say, with like-minded people. I've had such good conversations with people, and it's like, you have no idea. You're talking to someone from across the world and you don't know whether you're going to have a nice flowing conversation or whether it's going to work. And It just does.
I know. I'm so excited to have you on my show. So I get to do the other way around and find out what's on your mind. Yeah.
Yeah. The opposite dynamic. Well, thank you so much for your time today. I know people are going to love this conversation. So thank you very much.
Thanks. I'm thrilled to be here.
Thank you so much for listening to episode 16 of the LiveFitNow podcast. I hope you enjoyed the conversation with Lauren as much as I did, and you have all taken a few take-home tips that can allow us all to have a happier life. Myself and Lauren would love to hear your views on the podcast. If you've got any feedback or if you have any questions at all, please do not hesitate to get in touch with us. Thanks again for taking the time to listen, and we would be grateful if you could share the episode with your friends and family. You can also find it on YouTube, and don't forget to hit subscribe to make sure you are always up to date with the latest episode. Until the next time.